All right, our last story for today also comes from Ars Technica, and the title here is Passkey Technology is Elegant, but it's most definitely not usable security. And
And
it's,
boy, did this author lay out his case extensively.
he really did. Dan Gooden is a good guy, by the way. He's the author
Yep.
here. What the summary of his objection to Passkey is not that it's bad technology. It's actually, as he points out, very good technology. It's that it's so hyper fragmented. Like every vendor out there is trying to lock you into their of passkeys. And so like if if you use Firefox, it's going to try, Firefox is going to try to get you to use passkeys stored in the Firefox browser, but that passkey is not going to be available to you on your iPhone through your iOS Safari browser. And so on. And so in that manner, it becomes incredibly frustrating for people who might not be technologically savvy to understand that, like, when I create a passkey in Firefox on my Mac or my Windows PC, that it's not going to be available to me in Safari on my phone. And that therein lies the rub, because people are going to throw up their hands and say, like, this sucks. I'm going back to passwords. I think the one he calls it out like in multiple times, but I think it deserves more air cover, I guess, or more airtime. Is using a password manager. And so for me, I use 1Password, and Dan actually in the article talks about his experience with 1Password as well. If you use a password manager that interoperates across all of your different devices, it becomes a lot less of a problem. You can, like, this is exactly how I operate. I do use passkeys pretty extensively. And when I am on my Windows PC and I try to log into a site that requires a passkey, 1Password pops up and asks me if I want to use my passkey. And if I'm on my phone, which is iPhone, same deal. I don't have to worry about that kind of lock in. But if I ever wanted to change from 1Password to something else, like, good heavens, I've got to go and reset all of my authentication because I'm locked into 1Password. And that's kind of the whole point. I think it's important. And I dare say it's becoming a bit of a crisis that as an industry, we move to phishing resistant credentials. And I think what Dan is pointing out is that's a really problematic proposition given where we're at and the way that the different technology providers are trying to solve the problem.
Yeah, I don't disagree, but I also think that hey, it's a step in the right direction.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm I'm hoping that it will continue to iterate and get better. I'm hoping that articles like this will help point out the problem and drive the industry to not necessarily silo their approach and have a shared unified vision, which would be nice. We're getting there. And I saw actually one of the comments on his article talked about one of the initiatives that FIDO Alliance is doing to hopefully help. The other thing I think about is, and this is mainly just from the lens of what we talk about in the show, which is enterprise or organizational security. I I want to be careful about this because it's not that I don't care about the individual user, but in my little narrow scope of this conversation, I think this is less of a challenge in an enterprise environment because I usually have a fairly uniform environment and consistent environment that most of my users are operating in that I can help guide them in. I think where this challenge really occurs is cross-platform, cross-browser, cross-device, which is maybe more prevalent in an individual or non-enterprise user environment, but maybe I'm being too simplistic. I don't know.
Well, I think
So
it's important though, as you're figuring out what your solution, your enterprise solution is, that you have to make sure that from a usability perspective, people aren't storing their, I guess it's not the end of the world if they do, but storing their passkeys in their browser versus in
right,
the
right,
password manager that you're providing. Because I guess at least at the minimum, you're creating work for your help desk.
yeah, that's true.
To say, like, why can't I log in using my passkey from my phone? It works great on my desktop.
And there's some interesting implications there of the various security stances of these various tools.
Hmm.
For instance, and I don't know the full details, but there was one of the examples in the articles was whether or not you store the passkey in your Mac environment, in your iCloud, uh, keychain, or in the password manager coming with the browser.
Hmm.
And without digging deep into those, I bet those have two very different risk models and protection models. And one may be far more robust. One may be using hardware level encryption. One may be just password protected sync at a cloud level.
Yeah,
But usability matters, right? I've got to have portability of that passkey, or what's the point? So there's a trade off there. I don't know.
absolutely.
I guess I'm just kind of riffing on, yeah, it's not perfect. It's a step in the right direction. It does help with real problems. I want it to get better. And I completely get the trade off of usability versus friction and whether or not we get widespread adoption if it's too difficult to use. I get that. And I'm just hoping it'll continue to evolve, but I also think it's worth the problem. But I think that the scope of this article, or the goal of this article, is for your non-technical users especially, it's too complicated right now. And he's not wrong.
And it gets easier if you standardize on something that is platform agnostic, like a 1Password.
Yeah. What does not get easier is your mom, because she's about as easy as it gets. I got to reward those who stuck around for 55 minutes.
Fair enough. Fair enough.